Step into the captivating world of the Behind the Curtain podcast, where your dynamic hosts, John Dyer and Dr. Mohamed Saleh, bring together a wealth of 60 years of combined experience in healthcare and manufacturing. Join us every week as we delve into intriguing topics, weaving unscripted conversations that promise to take you on an unpredictable and enlightening journey. Gain valuable insights for your continuous improvement adventure as we navigate uncharted territories with enthusiasm and expertise. Welcome to a podcast that goes beyond the ordinary, unraveling the mysteries behind the curtain of knowledge.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Behind the Curtain. John and I today are actually very excited because there's a bunch of podcasts that are going to be rolling out that are really going to be focused on teams and team design, teamwork, team effectiveness, and trying to understand what is the team science behind putting it within your organization, putting it together within your organization. So today we're going to really focus and hone in on teamwork design and understand what is behind designing a team in your organization. And so there's going to be many things that we're going to be talking about. We're going to focus on types of teams, the tasks and the types of tasks that the teams get, the team size itself, how big should the team be, the teamwork skills that are behind it and the interpersonal skills that come with that, the conflict management skills that come with that, the motivational skills that come with that. And so with that, John, why don't you tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on when it comes to designing a team?
Yeah, so first of all, Mohamed, let me give you just a quick background because I think this is important. When I was at General Electric, some people may have heard the term workout. This was pre-Kaizen, right? Now we think of them as Kaizen events, but Jack Welch was the CEO at the time, and he started to notice that the same problems just kept popping up over and over and over again, and nothing was really being done about it. So he wanted every leader in the GE Corporation to sponsor a workout team. So this would be 3, 4, 5 days, just like a Kaizen event. And every team had to have a trained facilitator. Well, I was the first facilitator trained for Major Appliances, my division, and I actually got to help develop that training. And then I was asked to train all the facilitators in Major Appliances. Well, because of that, I got labeled the quote unquote expert, even though I didn't have that much more, expertise than anyone else. But so whenever they had a very difficult workout planned, they would ask me to facilitate it. And I tell you, I had some doozies. I mean, some really, really tough groups. But it was fun. I mean, I enjoyed it, and ultimately it was quite successful. So I got to participate in designing and developing these teams on a regular basis for 2 or 3 years. And so, I mean, we're talking dozens and dozens. So I've seen all sizes, all makeups, and have learned through the School of Hard Knocks what works and what doesn't work. So, yeah, the first question really is, do you even need a team, right? Because if you're just basically pulling a group of people together and disseminating information and not asking them to actually make any decisions or research anything or come up with any new ideas, well, you could do that with a chain of emails. So why have the team? Or if you're having teams just to be able to check that box and you don't really plan to listen to what they have to say or implement any of their ideas or let them implement their ideas, then I call that a facade. That's the title of my book, right? Is the facade of excellence, where leaders are doing things just to check a box and say, yeah, oh yeah, I sponsor, 4 or 5 teams, but they don't actually do anything or they don't actually implement anything. So that's the critical part is, first of all, do you even need a team?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then let's talk about team makeup. How would you design the team?
Yeah, I love your question, your comments there, because when I think what are the type of teams that I need, what comes to mind to me is what's the problem I'm trying to solve for.
Right.
And if the problem I'm trying to solve for is advancing a standard, then my perspective to that is very technical. If my problem that I'm trying to solve is how do I advance care, then I'm looking at a cross-functional leadership style team. And I'm just going to use two really quick examples. So if I want to advance the way I administer nurses administer chemo on the floor, I might have to create a team of nurses that could pull from different sites the way they do chemo, come up with best practice so that we could advance that technical skill. And so having like someone like a chief nursing officer or a nursing lead overseeing that team is very appropriate because it's a very technical team.
Right.
However, if I'm trying to see how do I reduce breast cancer, or in the primary care setting, for example, how do I effectively take care of a follow-up for a patient or a physical for a patient? That model doesn't work. I need a cross-functional team. And so, because that's the problem I'm trying to solve. And so in that space, then I need, I might need a physician, I might need a nurse, I might need a receptionist, I might need an advanced practitioner, I might need a behavioral health specialist, I might need a cross-functional team. So when that patient comes in, they feel holistically taken care of. Or on the chemo side, I may need someone who's good at medical oncology, someone who's better at radiation oncology, someone who's better at maybe navigation afterwards, someone who's better at nursing. And so a pharmacist, and I mean a cross-functional team to take care of this type of problem, this cancer problem. And so I would say those are two types of teams. However, so there's a technical team and what I call a cross-functional leadership team to solve for the same problem or to solve for those types of problems. And then you have a third team, which is I call the project team. And the project team is that we're giving a problem, and we need to understand what aspects is this problem touching, who are these resources, and do I have representative of these people? And then do I have someone who acts as a facilitator to that? Sometimes, my sensei used to call them like the tiger teams. I don't know why he called them tiger, but the tiger teams or the project teams where they go into it to kind of like rip apart this problem to try to figure out, but that's a team as well. And so in your organization, you might have programmatic teams, you might have technical teams, you might have project teams, but I think it's really important to understand what the type of team that we're talking about so you understand the design. And you could have a matrix design where I'm looking at oncology as a cross-functional team, but I'm also looking at nursing as a technical team. And that matrix in the center, that person has to understand with the technical aspect, I'm being responsible to advancing the standard of care around my technical skill. But from a programmatic perspective, I need to be able to coordinate so that what my interests are don't become a cost or an impact on the other team members on my team.
Right. Okay, good. I tell you, just a few other notes about the team makeup. I love what you're talking about because you're right. It depends on the type of problem or opportunity that the team's working on will determine the design. You want it to be, as diverse as possible, right? Because it's the old saying that if everyone thinks the same, then why do you need the team? You just need one person.
Yep.
So you want a diversity of ideas. So make sure that you're inviting people from other divisions or the night shift versus the day shift. So you want that diverse set of thoughts and opinions. And then I always stress this: make sure the team has at least one person on it that has never worked in that area before, right? Now, they may have the background. So maybe it's a nurse from a different department or a different floor, but has never worked in that department ever before.
Yeah.
Because you need that fresh set of eyes You also need someone who's willing to ask the dumb questions.
Yeah.
Because you know, there's many times when this person from the outside will come in and they'll be like, what's this acronym mean? The AZP acronym. What does that mean? And then there'll be 3 or 4 other people around them be like, I've always been wondering that too, but I've been too afraid to ask because this is in my department, and
100%.
I've never understood what that really meant.
Yeah.
So it's critically important. And then, like I said, with the fresh set of eyes, let me give you just one quick example. I love this one. So this was a group of machinists in a manufacturing plant. Now, this group, they were teddy bears, but when you first saw this group of machinists, they were pretty intimidating, right? These were big, burly guys with they rode in on their Harleys every morning. They had the leather vests and the chains and the do-rags, but they were the nicest guys that you can imagine, but they were intimidating. Well, they decided to form a team to figure out how to improve the setups of their machines. And they had just gone through a training class with a lady from marketing who had never set foot in a manufacturing plant before in her life, but she was, in the front office in marketing. And they wanted her to be their fresh set of eyes. And I got a chance to watch this team in action, and it was fascinating. This lady from marketing, she was great, but she was out there on the shop floor, and she was just like poking these guys in the chest, like, why is this valve over here and not over here where you need it? And why is that toolbox way over there when you need it right here where you need the tools? I don't get this. Can you explain this to me? And they'd be like, well, that's just the way it's always been. But now that you mention it, why do we have it like this? This is ridiculous, and they made at the end of the process, they were saying that she opened their eyes to things that they had never even thought about before.
I love that example. I love that example. Something that you just pointed to is that interpersonal skill. And so, it's really important, I feel, when you have a team dynamic, at least, or when you have a team that's together, is that to separate teamwork or team effectiveness with task work. Because I might have 6 people on a team and each person is amazing at their task, but they don't know how to work together. There is no trust between them. There is no respect between them. They don't listen to each other. They can't effectively communicate. And so I feel like interpersonal skills is an important design aspect to understand how do you build trust within the team? How do you get respect within the team? How do you make sure that everyone's voice is heard? And most importantly, how do you also communicate with one another? Which leads me to understand also that the size of the team matters. And the bigger the team is, the less effective it is. And I was in an emergency department once, and I was at a huddle, and there was 90 nurses and physicians at this huddle.
Right.
And I was like, all under one manager. And I was like, how do you communicate? Like, how do you do this? And I was like, maybe we should break them up into pods and have smaller teams. And they were against that idea. But in my experience, I have found that team size, anything over 9, it starts to kind of like lose its traction. And so when you have a team that's 20, that's a very big team. You might need a few leads first to pre-huddle, and then those people could huddle. But then when you start making those teams that are 40 and 50 individuals, your communication saturation plummets, and then you start saying our teams are not communicating effectively. Of course they're not communicating effectively. You have 40 people on your team. And so, one of the things that I would always advise in team design, try to keep them as small as possible. Make sure that there's interpersonal skills, and pay extra attention to things like how you get motivated on this team. Is it like the stick or the carrot kind of motivation? And how do you deal with conflict on this team? That has to be baked in your design. You can't wait until it happens to try to do it. It has to be upfront to say, hey, you know what? Because I love what you just said about this person poking at them. Sometimes I'll ask someone, hey, on this team, we're gonna go down this path. I want you to find every flaw. I want you to be the negative person in this. okay, want you to play this role today. And sometimes I'll pick the most optimistic person that doesn't could never do this role, but I
Okay.
want to kind of push them out of their comfort zone. And I'll take someone who's very resistant to this and be like, I want you to advocate and find all the good in this one. Okay, all the pros in this one. And I would change and I would create role plays to break this conflict up proactively before I go into this. And sometimes I'll have debates where I'll say, hey guys, I want to talk about a strategic plan that we're talking about. This is not a project team, but this is more of a leadership team. I want the three of you to find everything good about it. I want you three of you to find everything bad about it, and I want you guys to debate it. I'm going to give you a few days to think about all the pros and cons of them, and then I want to put us in a room, and I want you let's debate the pros and cons of this. And they'll break up into mini teams, find all the pros, find all the cons, and come back together, and then you start having this team effectiveness because now there's trust. And sometimes I'll pick two people that are going to be pro that are not that close, but I'm going to make them close by doing that together. And so I think understanding conflict and motivational skills as part of your design is really critical.
Yeah,
So,
and
John, what's your thought?
yeah, and that's important. And so a couple of things. One, you reminded me, that when I teach classes on being a facilitator, right, being a neutral facilitator, which is a key role that for teams that are going to be making difficult decisions. So not all teams need a facilitator,
Mhm.
but those that are going to be making tough decisions really would benefit from a neutral facilitator. And the way we do the training class to get facilitators prepared for
Mhm.
what they may run into is it's one day of instruction and then one day of practice. And in the practice session, I randomly distribute disruptive behaviors in the group
Yeah.
just so that they get a chance to experience what it's like. And what's funny is the feedback I get from doing that is not only do the facilitators benefit from having the opportunity to see what it is like to deal with a disruptive behavior, but the participants in the class that are asked to be disruptive come back and say, gosh, now we understand why these things are so disruptive. The whole time I was, having a side conversation or I was trying to be negative, I started to realize that, wow, this really does have a detrimental impact to the team. And we do need to address, this up front
Yeah.
if it does happen. So that's one thing. Second thing is um, if you do have a large group that the leader's like, oh no, I want to get everybody involved. One of the things that you could do is like you said, have the group be 6 to 9, but then like periodically pull in the whole group. So like as an example, the first thing I usually ask the team to do is do a process map. And then what I like to do is buy everybody lunch, the entire department lunch, have them come in at lunchtime and look at the process map, have the team walk the whole group through the process that they developed and ask, did we miss any steps? Or what happens if this goes wrong? And does it generate additional hidden steps? And while they're eating their pizza, get their thoughts and inputs. And so they have the opportunity to become vested in that part of the process. You could do the same thing after a brainstorming session, right? You've done a bunch of brainstorming and you've come up with a bunch of ideas, and then again invite the whole department in for pizza and ask, do they have any additional ideas they would like to add? So there are things you can do to include people, but I totally agree with you. If the group gets too big, it becomes unwieldy and you won't get much accomplished.
Yeah. So, we talked today about different types of teams, both programmatic teams or technical teams and leadership cross-functional teams. We talked about project teams. And I think everything that we talked about applies to all of those types of teams. This was a really rich conversation. I know we still have things on team development that we're going to be talking about. I know we have things on team dynamics, team decision makings, and future podcasts that are coming up after this and rolling out. So I look forward to talking about them with you. This was great. We'll see you
Yeah.
next.
Well, just one more quick thing before we conclude. There are lots of things that can be done in the design of the meeting to make sure that uh, the team stays on track and develops that trust. It just does, way I put it is you don't just take a bunch of people and throw them in a room and wave a wand and say you're a team, start acting like it.
Yeah.
There are many, many things that you can do to help a team come together and gel. And that's what we'll be talking about over the next several podcasts.
I love it. I love it. All right. We'll stay tuned to that.
All
All
right.
right. Take care, everyone.
As we draw the curtains on another fascinating episode, we wanted to express our gratitude for joining us on this enlightening journey. If you're hungry for more captivating and thought-provoking discussions with John Dyer and Dr. Mohamed Saleh, hit that subscribe button to ensure you don't miss a beat. Until next week, keep exploring, stay inquisitive, and stay inspired. See you on the next Behind the Curtain adventure.